Well, hello everyone. I love all you prompt people who show up on time. As usual, I'm super excited for this, well, let's call it conversations with. I've sort of gone past the word webinar. I think it's like the word pivot and pandemic and the words that we're hearing so much lately that I like to see that there's another word that we can use. And this really is about conversations with in this case, Darius. So I am going to introduce him. But first of all, I would love to welcome you all for coming along to this month's, like I said, conversations with me and sharing in the journey that we've been going on. So you can see, for those that have been following us for a little while now, you can see on the screen we have a new brand. And it was not that long ago that we were launching Perth on Impact Entrepreneurs, realising that our whole community is far greater than just Perth. And even though that is a brand and that is still part of what we do, we are now global impact entrepreneurs. So very much going out to a wider market than we have previously. So excited about that as well. Or at the end of this, we have two reasons to stay on, apart from the fact that you will want to stay on as soon as Darius starts speaking to you and sharing, we start having this conversation, but because someone is going to win a 30-minute session with Darius, which I know you're all going to. When you go listen to what he has to share, you'll all be hoping that that is you. And we'll also have Darius share with you how you can connect with him outside of this. And the second one is as very much an alignment, and this is what I've been asked a lot about over the months and months and months, and I've spoken about creating a micro degree or a mini course on how to monetize your identity. So how to monetize, it's not just about personal brand, it's about who you are and how you actually can monetize that. So someone will win a 60-minute session with me on their personal, to go through their personal identity and working with them and that. So there's two reasons to stay on apart from the obvious of having that time with Darius. So let's connect with Darius. So Darius, we've known each other for a little bit of time now. I've actually met you. You've lived between Lithuania or other places and Bali, which is when I met you in person. You are currently in Lithuania. We said it's kind of interesting because I'm over here in Australia, you're in Lithuania. So I don't know, it must be at least 5 years, I think we've known each other now.
Yeah, at the very least, yes.
Yeah,
and the quarantine just changed the movements and the lifestyle, right? So like often we just sort of jet around the world, and now we're sort of trapped pretty much for the time being. Yeah, but I think it's been 5 years that we've known each other, yeah.
It would have been, but we've spoken to each other. We've been online many times over those 5 years and before that, as we've been very much part of the same community of Entrepreneurs Institute and supporting Roger. So through the different programs that we've either been hosting or connecting through that. So it was like our paths have crossed in many ways. And, you know, it's so exciting hearing your story and your journey and how you're now creating something out of your passion, because you've got an amazing story that you've shared. And I remember sitting there and having a conversation with you, and I think, wow, this guy is just, I could listen to you for so long, because you know you're awesome at just inspiring people through that story. So with where you've taken it now from, you know, obviously you've got your own authentic story. How did you actually move that from that of you've got a story to tell, and of course we all have, into you creating something and sharing how others can do that?
That's quite a good question. I guess that's kind of the first principle is, you know, we obviously are all very preoccupied with our own journey and our own story. That's only natural. We are human. But I guess when it comes to telling our story, it's the irony that it's not about us when we tell our story. It's we always have to think about the, you know, allowing other people to see themselves in our story, and that's kind of the guiding criteria for, you know, seeing which bits of your story can either become a brand, a product, a service. Is, you know, how would then someone else, you know, would see themselves in your shoes. So I guess obviously we can go into the story itself, but that was a kind of the main principle that I took from, you know, because for example, nobody wants to know that I've sort of lived in Bali and enjoyed my life. Everybody would know how they can do the same, right? How can they build up a business that allows them to do that? Or, you know, it's nice to share your own story, but then how could someone else identify aspects of their story to share, right? And so yeah, I guess that was the main principle as to how I started to work with that.
Yeah, and it is interesting because I mean, out of all of the training that I've been involved in, and a lot of that's happened in Bali, right? It was very much about its authenticity, and it's you know, when we get up as speakers, it's people want to relate to a story. You know, they relate more to a story than to you just sharing content on a PowerPoint behind you, and it's because it builds that connection. And I think that's from my perspective, the best value I've had out of any of the trainings I've done is learning how to craft a story. But, you know, it's not crafting it from the perspective of making something up. It's actually bringing what we've got into a reality and being able to share it with others in a powerful way so they can relate to it, and, you know, articulating it so that they, like you said, they feel like they're part of it as well. So how, and I'm happy for you to share what you're doing already, obviously with your, you know, you've got a Facebook group, and I'm happy for you to share how you're actually working with people to create or craft their story.
Well, I guess just to give a little sort of background, the way sort of I got into the whole, you know, field of storytelling was that I started off as a playwright and a theater director. And I did that for sort of quite professionally, actually, quite around the world, and in London and China and America. And then at one point I decided that that didn't quite serve my story, that I wasn't quite happy with it. So I decided to pivot my story. So I dropped that idea of being a theater director or a screenwriter. And then I moved to Bali, and this is where I met Terry, and then became part of Entrepreneurs Institute, and the whole entrepreneur education came into the conversation. And following from that, I really you know, obviously listening to the stories in the entrepreneur community and seeing how people make the best of their stories, identify their stories, and then further monetize them. You know, I started to then do the same with my own. So first I built up a language school here in Europe, which is now online and has a team of people. And then through that, and then I also storytold for Entrepreneurs Institute, and we traveled with them, and I interviewed, you know, over 300-400 entrepreneurs around the world. And I sort of started looking into what is the common denominator of our stories, both personally and then as a business. So following from that, I started teaching journaling as a tool to understand your own story, your own inner narrative, and make changes as a result of that. And I sort of, I've been doing that for 5 years, and that's been sort of my passion and a hobby. So whenever I find myself in a different country, I would just run a workshop. And then at some point, you know, I started having all these brands come to me, and entrepreneurs, and, you know, ask me to consult on how to craft their story. So this is why I sort of started pulling out all of my experience as a theater director, as a storyteller, and applying all those principles. And I forgot the initial question by now, but so, and this is where at the beginning of the year, I created what I call the School of Growth Writing, where I am teaching the art and then journaling as a tool, as well as brand story boot camp as a way to actually identify your identity, understand how to translate that into landing pages, ads, products, services, and, you know, you name it, email campaigns, and so forth. So, and yes, there is a Facebook group, you know, where I run weekly trainings and lives and interviews, where I just simply engage the community and use that community also to define the main through lines, the main themes that I'm communicating. And I will talk more about that in a minute. But I'm sure if that answers your question, Terry, because I wanted to give a background, and then I realized that I might have veered off a bit.
No, but that's perfect, because I think that's what it is, and this is about the power of story, right? Is that it can link and lead us in different directions. And I think from my perspective, the direction that things go in is based on the market, the people that your community, who you're speaking to, is, you know, they're the ones who want to listen because you've got a story to tell. And you said something powerful about the journaling is like that connection between crafting your story into something that makes sense for a community that can add value to what you're doing. And, you know, you can do that through journaling. And that's what I find from my own perspective. You can tell me how you link it, but from my own perspective, it's like it's on my desk all the time. It's with me all the time. And my thoughts go into that. And whether it's their personal thoughts, yeah, you know, and I'm sure that there's many others on this call that have got their journals that they take with them, that it's personal, it's business, it's whatever, it's like those creative moments, and it's memories, you know, it's about memories of things that relate. And I remember doing this particular training, and it was very much about connecting with people based on something that is a topic, and then relating a story to that topic so that people can resonate with that story, relates to that, and I get it now, and they want to come on that continual journey. And the only way I could do that was through journaling at first. Otherwise, if I had to impromptu sit there and trying to remember something that happened, I couldn't do it. But when I wrote it, when I journaled, it made more sense to me. And then I went, oh, that's right. Yep, I can do that now. I can share it. How do you link it from when you're working, you know, with journaling and, you know, crafting a story and writing? How do you link that together?
That's a really good question. I think for a lot of people, I often find that people would sort of think of journaling as something wacky, you know, but I think it's vital. I think it's a vital tool. And the way I see it is that is to start with understanding your own inner narrative. So anything that you fear, desire, worry, dream of, you know, the way you behave, your patterns, your thoughts, your ideas, that all make up your inner narrative. Now, whenever you are selling something, whenever you're promoting your service, you're tapping into your customers' inner narrative. Now, how would you know, how would you be able to assume what your customers' inner narrative is without actually being aware of your own? And that's kind of the principle that I go by is, you know, to first start understanding your own narrative so that you can then tap into your customer's narrative. Because what is a good copy after all? It's, you know, it's writing to the target customer in their words, in their specific vernacular vocabulary that they would be using. It's resonating with their fears, doubts, dreams, desires, understanding them so well that when they open your landing page, it's exactly written for them, right? So this is kind of the premise of journaling, is that you would first understand your own inner narrative. And once you have that, obviously that would prompt your products and your services and what you want to do as an individual or as an entrepreneur or as a creator. That is a database, your own personal archive, your own personal glossary, your own personal database that prompts you and hints you and guides you as to where to go next. Also, being an entrepreneur can be quite lonely, especially if you're running a team or a company in a way that you are the leader. So you have to be quite aware of how you are leading, what you are coming up with, what you're conjuring up, you know. So that's one aspect, I guess, to that. And then a lot of the time, I would then invite people, once they become aware of their own inner narrative, to start devising their customers' inner narrative. And that very much links to, so I'm not sort of using anything groundbreaking in a way. It's very much related to, if you look, screenwriting principles or script writing principles. If you look at theater principles, or the Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. So basically we take all these dramatic concepts and we link them back to entrepreneurship, monetization, our identity. Essentially, we're all characters in our story, and our products tap into that. So yeah, so I think in a way, journaling for me is like the key tool to first raise the level of my own awareness, and then help say my customers, clients do the same, and then as a result of that, to be able to devise a narrative that is for the public eye, but first you need to get the nitty-gritty and all of that down on paper very honestly, and see what you're then selecting to be part of the of your public persona. If I'm answering your question again.
Yeah, you are. And I'm just watching the chat box too. We've got Leanne in here saying, the first comment that she makes is people don't buy products, they buy purpose of the product. They buy people, and they buy into the people and the community and why you're doing it. It's like Simon Sinek, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do what you do. And it's that story behind it that says people's of what the why is. The other thing that she comments about is she used to think it was weird with the journaling as well, had a poor relationship with accountability and reflection. And I mean, I guess that's common for a lot of people, right? And it's getting that, helping people with that understanding of how to actually take something that is deep embedded in us that sometimes some of us don't allow out, and craft something from that, is bringing that out and crafting. Journaling is one way. So would you, I'd love for you, or would you be so kind as to share some of the strategies or some of the things that you do to support people to, how to craft their own story and bring that into a reality where they can utilize it in their business?
If I may share my screen.
Yes.
So we have that on. So it actually very much relates to what we already talked about, and I guess that just sort of complements or supports some of the ideas that we discussed. The whole idea of one's inner narrative, and then the idea of a powerful story arc. So I guess when I sort of work with brands or entrepreneurs who are devising their personal brands, the key is to look at it holistically and understand I always ask them, what are the key 3 themes that are going to be driving your story, your brand? What are the key through lines that are going to be driving your brand? Now, the idea of through lines comes from theater, and I have a sort of a brief description of that, and it says the characters. So when you think of a character in a play or in a film, so the character's main purpose of action in terms of the plot, what they are trying to carry out throughout the play. So in my case, for example, when I looked at my own work, and that's what Terry asked us to, how I started defining what I'm on about and what is my story, and this is where journaling comes in. So obviously you have to write lots, or you have to be quite self-aware, or have a mentor to be able to first look at everything that's going on within yourself or within your company, to dissect and define the key themes that will be driving your entire narrative. Now within that, so in my case, I might just be giving examples. So in my case, the key 3 themes that are the pillars of that story arc, once you come to my website or my Instagram profile, in my case are, so I define it as brand storytelling and online education, journaling, and then it's also a passion of mine, ancient philosophers, so that's I Ching and samurai. I've been training as a samurai in Japan, as weird as it sounds. So these are the themes that I want people to be relating to me when they think of me, right? Or when or I want them to get that sense of when they visit my websites and watch my videos and so forth, or trainings, right? So that's one thing to ask yourself. What are what is your brand's narrative? What are the key 3 themes that are going to be driving you and so within those key 3 themes, or those through lines, if you want to use the fancier term, all your products will stem out of that, or will have to fall under those themes, all your services and your posts, your Facebook ads campaigns, all of that is part of the greater whole. So it's because very often, if you think of a good film or a good play or a good book, you'd always the narrative would be super strong. You'd be able to follow along with it. It will be taking you somewhere. There is nothing accidental. There is no word out of place. So with a good brand, that's also the same. There is no word out of place. There is no email out of place. There is no ad out of place. Everything serves the bigger narrative, the bigger sort of image that you're trying to convey or portray. So I guess if we were to look at, to give practical takeaways, and if you start journaling and start understanding and diving into your inner narrative, and I always propose to do that through free writing techniques and exercises. Just simply keep writing it all out on a daily basis, and then revisit your notes a couple of months later with a highlighter, because that will prompt you, that will give you ideas. And then you go into defining the key themes and through lines. Once you have those three, and the reason why I say three is because if you choose 10, then when one comes to your website, they have no idea what you are on about, because you do this and you do that and you do that. So the more specific you are, the more you'll be of resonance to your target audience or customer. So once you have the three themes, I always encourage them to, and this is just a little taster preview of the very start of the process. Then you look into sub-themes. So sub-themes that live under the key overarching storylines. So in my case, and I would sort of encourage to have three then sub-themes, which then will go into sub-themes, So by that I mean, so for example, if one of my key themes was brand storytelling, then I'll ask myself, okay, so what are other sub-themes that I can be talking about under brand storytelling? And this is just an example, and this list could be endless, to be honest. So then you go brand voice, brand story arc, video scripting, ad campaigns, and you just keep listing it down until you have a whole body of themes that you can be diving into. Later you can go back into the list and cross things out, add new things, and this will serve almost like a map for you when you work with your brand story. And I think this is also very important. And it's not that you also have to be a good writer or a good communicator. It's also applicable when you have to hire somebody. So if you're about to hire a copywriter or even a marketing agency, which can be quite tricky, to be honest, to work with, you have to be quite clear of the direction. So you want to hand them something so they can take this as a map and then further create. For example, if you have a new team, if you have a new social media manager, this will be gold to them because they will know what to talk about, right? So I always encourage at this step to break down the sub themes, right? And once you have the through lines, and once you have the sub themes, your story is fueled. You know what you're talking about. So you won't wake up in the morning and think, okay, what can I do my live training on? Because it's clear to you the parameters for your story are quite clear, and you will be thinking within the parameters of what you've outlined for yourself. And that's what you'll be known for. So then further from that, you go down to, as I said, devising stories, posts, articles, videos, emails, sales emails, ad campaigns, video ads, according to those bigger topics. So then, for example, I sat down and I thought, okay, what if I looked at journaling as therapy, right? And I go, okay, interviews with prominent journaling therapists and storytellers, journal meditations, client testimonials and interviews, and sort of you go down with actually breaking that down and going into the depth. And so you'll never get to the point where you'll have to ask yourself what to post. And then also this will become a criteria of sorts as to to decide what not to post. It's like if you suddenly decide to post something that, say in my case, I decided to suddenly post something on I don't know, like I'd say charitable endeavors, and it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. People get distracted and they can't follow. So the whole idea is to make it as simple as possible for people to follow you, your brand, and what you are talking about, so that they can, because they always be coming back for that. Obviously later on, like depends on one's success level, once you are known and you're big and you have millions of followers, then, it's a different matter. You might be able to branch out and become quite generic because you've earned the right. But at the beginning, everybody will be coming for how-tos, the same as you wouldn't be listening to me if I was talking about something else, but you came here not because of me, but because of us talking about storytelling, right? Whilst the case would be different if Terry was to interview Tony Robbins, because he could just talk about anything he wants because he's so already famous and he has the right to branch out, right? And then another very quick tip, I guess, is to so this name the sort of initial trainings that I've done, and also in my Facebook group as well, and then this is the stuff that we take much further when I work in my mentoring group or with clients. So it's also a good rule of thumb is to see your customer as a character in a screenplay, and by that I meant something that I said at the beginning of this conversation with Terry, where I said, like, what are your desires, fears, doubts, insecurities? If you viewed your customer as a character who's living out their story, who is not only, because it's very common to be writing a customer avatar, which outlines what the person makes and their living situation and conditions, but it's not necessarily going into the depth of the human being that you're talking to. But if you start seeing that person who makes X, who has this particular job and is of this particular demographic, but also go deeper into understanding, their greater sense of, mission, intention, goal, desire, what drives them. If you understand how they talk to themselves, if you understand, and I'm trying to obviously summarize it because I know we are short on time. But this is just sort of a starter, to kickstart your thinking around it, and think of their greatest obstacles. Then you are able to very much relate to your reader, audience member, viewer, customer, because you see them as a fully fleshed 3D human being who's going through their trials and tribulations, and therefore when you offer a service or a product that taps into their narrative, that is, because essentially, one last thought, the whole idea of in a narrative, imagine yourself at 2 a.m. at night when you can't fall asleep, you're scrolling through social media, and you're thinking, and whatever you're thinking that particular night, for example, you're fearing something, or you're worrying about something, or you're wanting something, and an ad comes up, and if the ad comes up that exactly mirrors and echoes what you're thinking in that particular moment, you are very likely to click on it, and even more likely to actually purchase whatever they're offering, right? So so I hope that's helpful, and maybe Terry, you have either questions or comments or any other guiding words at this point.
I do. There's some questions that's coming in the chat, so I'm going to ask them. But first and foremost, and I think I would ask this on behalf of others, I haven't looked at the chat again at the moment, but is this a template you can share, or is it that they need, I was going to say that it can be the end, the end game. One is if we can get this template off you so that we can share it with those that are on the call. Two, they obviously can access it through coming in and joining your Facebook group, which we'll get Mandy to put up soon. But let me just run through some of the questions that I've noticed have been coming up. Himley said, going back to the journaling, what do you do if you do not have the discipline to do journaling? I've been trying this for years. Any tips?
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, you can just join my Facebook group because I talk quite a lot about it. And I created this very simple mind game, so to speak, which I called a growth writing exercise, a 3-minute growth writing exercise, where I said, if it's only just for 3 minutes that you sit down every day, so 3 minutes, like everybody has 3 minutes. You don't need to do 10, you don't need to do 20, just do 3 minutes of opening a notebook or even a phone if you are, I don't know, out and about or in a cafe, or your friend just went to the loo and you're waiting for them to come back. You have that 1 minute. Instead of scrolling, you can be taking out your phone and just jotting down whatever is going through in your mind, within you. So I guess the tip would be not to make it something so big and important that you'll never be able to find time for. If you think of it as something that is a tool for you to aid your life and to be integrated into your life as you go about your day, you can dedicate 1 minute, you can dedicate even 30 seconds to write down that thought. And as it often happens when once you sit down for 3 minutes to write, you will then write for 10 or 15 or 20. But at the very, and that's what I think is also a tip in the Atomic Habits book. But that's often because you start writing out and you'll get hooked on your own story. You'll be, hey, I want to find out what I'm thinking next about this, So don't make it so important. Just make it as breathing. You don't think about breathing, As Darius said, like the notebook can be always open on your desk, all right? And you just jot down whatever comes up.
Yeah, I found that from my own perspective, it's like, and many women and maybe men, but more so women will relate to this. It's like that, okay, I need to get back in and lose some weight. Need that I'm starting a diet, for want of a better word. And then it's like, oh, wow, I just ate that chocolate cake, so I've just gone off track. Well, you just get back on track. So I made a goal to journal every day. And then I did find that when I was on my desk, it would be more habitual, but I didn't want it to be something that I was so regimented that I get up at, and if I don't do it at 7 o'clock, I feel like I've got the jitters because I haven't fulfilled what I needed to. If I got into something and it didn't happen at that time, I just go, you know what, I've got 2 minutes now. I'm just going to journal what's in my head or what's in my heart and let that just free flow and let my hand flow with it. And I think it's good just not to get too regimented with it. So that's from my perspective. Okay, Charlotte has said she has a question regarding telling your story. How do you do that with integrity?
That's a good question. How do you do that with integrity? Well, you have to have, I guess, your principles or your criteria. And so for you to know that you're doing this with integrity or not, right? And how would you have your life's principles? So if you read the Ray Dalio's book, The Principles, the way he sort of put together his principles for life. It doesn't have to be as grand, but I guess this is where journaling comes in. As always asking yourself, so, what is integrity for me? Because, what I think is integrity for me might be very different to you, right? And then what I'll think as a good thing to sell, you might think is horrible, and vice versa. So define the principles by which you think of yourself as communicating with integrity. And then before posting, look at those principles. And then, so these can go as an addition to the story arc framework that we've broken down. And then you'll just judge it against that, because who's to say, what is with integrity or not? I hope that answers the question somehow.
Yeah, that's true. It's all perspective, right? Individual. By the way, Mandy has put in Darius's Facebook group into, into the chat. So if you scroll up from the bottom up, you will see that in there. I have a last question, because obviously we could keep talking forever, but we will be out of time soon. From Lorna, should all your 3 themes support the aspirations of your business and those of your clients, or can one act to simply provide insights into other values and beliefs so that clients can gain a greater understanding of who you are?
That's a very convoluted question. Depends how, it depends on the actual sort of situation and the themes that you would be choosing, right? Because if the first 2 is plumbing and electricity, and the third is, find your soul's purpose, obviously that will be out of line. However, it totally can be something that is of value. It doesn't have to be, say, something that is a product in itself. So in my case, if you saw it, I did brand storytelling and online education, which can both become products or are products. And then journaling, which is also can be or will be a product. then the final theme of my own was summarize ancient philosophies, summarize strategies and itching. So that really is not, a product, and it won't probably be a product, can be, but it's something through which I see that I can provide value and tell unique stories. So as long as it sort of does not veer off too much from the first two, I think definitely it can be something of value. It doesn't have to be. So this is a big umbrella. So it's not a product necessarily. It's not a service that a theme is. It's rather the opposite. The service falls under the theme. The product falls under the theme, the topic, the story.
Awesome. Thanks, Darius. So we have gone a little bit over, and I knew that this was the topic that, like I said, we should have given it the hour really. So there are opportunities for everyone to go in and connect with you, and we've put your Facebook group in there. So that's the best way. We will be sending out this recording to everyone who's listening in and registered. With that follow-up email too, if we can get that template from you so that we can share, that would be super, super awesome. Oh. But as I said in the beginning of the call, we have the opportunity for someone to come in and have that 30-minute strategy session with you, which I know will be super powerful, because as we know, and all of us do know this, so we all have we learn in different ways, but we learn from others' experience, and those that have already mastered a craft or mastered a skill, there's no better person to learn from than that person. So what I would love is Mandy to go in and there will be two winners. One will be the 30-minute strategy session with Darius, which will send his Calendly link or his link so that you can book that call with him. And the second one will be an hour on identity with me. So very closely connected with each other. So, and the winner of the 30-minute strategy call with Darius is Lorna. So Lorna had that, and I can see Lorna. That's super exciting, yeah, because I know Lorna creates websites and she's a creator, and it's very much about crafting that story as well as part of that. So I'm super, super excited that it's going to Lorna. I'm really happy that she gets the opportunity to experience that time. And the 60 minutes with me is Himley. So, and Himley, we obviously know each other. We've connected before on Crisis Leadership Academy. So I'm looking forward to connecting in with you and talking about that as well. So Darius, thank you so much. You know that we've talked about this, and I was one of those people obviously that you interviewed, and it came up in my memories just recently. Yes. About the story that you wrote for me, on me. And I will share that with everyone as well, and you can see the value of how Darius's head works and how he does craft stories, because I was so humbled to be interviewed by you and have that opportunity. So thank you so much for giving your time. I'm hoping that each and every person on this will go in and connect in your Facebook group and learn from someone that I believe is one of the most authentic people I know. So thanks, Darius. And
thank you so much, Terry. It's a privilege to come and speak here. Thanks a lot.
It's a pleasure.
It's really nice, definitely.
Awesome. And thank you so much to everyone for trusting in us and coming along on this journey. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one, which will be on the 23rd of July. So watch this space. We've got our next speaker, who's Kendall Turney, who is all the way from the US, and he's speaking on communication. So look forward to having you back for that. And I'm sure over the time we will definitely be having Darius come back and share some magic with you again. So thanks everyone. Have a beautiful rest of your week and weekend, and we'll connect with you soon.